Hey, welcome to the Digital Insurance Agent Podcast. So glad you've joined us today. And with me is Kyle Coon. Kyle, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks, Carl. Great to be here.
And Kyle, you've got an amazing story. I'm going to let you tell us a little bit about your story, and then we're going to get into the topic of prospecting. But in particular, we're going to talk about the importance of quality communication to develop prospecting and really cultivate those new prospect relationships and develop that book of business. And so, Kyle, go ahead and take it away. Tell us a little bit about yourself, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, thanks so much for having me on. And yeah, just so that to give your listeners a bit of background. I actually have been totally blind since I was 6 years old, and I was a very sporting child growing up. Got into competitive rock climbing, and a bunch of different outdoor adventure type sports. But woven throughout my life, the verbal and written communication has just been really, really important to me. Just because being totally blind, I could sometimes miss out on some of the visual aspects of life, whether that be nonverbal cues or something along those lines. And so I've always had this fascination with the verbal and written word. And so I decided to study communication in college, and then beyond college, funnily enough, I actually really struggled finding employment immediately after college because I can admit now I was quite an arrogant 21-year-old, and I just decided that I was going to apply for every job CEO and above. And when I realized that didn't work, I climbed my way down the corporate ladder, fell off the bottom rung, hit the ground, and started digging a hole. Uh, and that led me down a very unhealthy path. But eventually, I did find my way off that unhealthy path and into back into my sporting roots, and decided to pursue Paralympic sport, in particular Paralympic triathlon. And when I started progressing in the sport of paratriathlon, I actually realized that communication became much more vital in my success than even my physical talents or abilities to swim, bike, and run. And so I really decided to step back into learning how to more effectively and better communicate. So I actually, apologies, one of our dogs is trying to join the conversation. but uh, but I I realized that communication is such a big part of our life, and so I I jumped I delved deeper into the art and science of communication, and pursued it at really in kind of a sporting way. So I took the approaches that I learned from being a competitive high level athlete, to the art and science of communication, and discovered the work of a gentleman named Phil M. Jones, who wrote this little book called Exactly What to Say. The sales guide for non-salespeople, basically, is what it was. And I really, that kind of stuff really spoke to me in particular, because it was very clear, it was very simple, um, and it was effective. And so I started applying that into my own life, and eventually was able to connect with Phil, and became one of his Exactly What to Say certified guides. And so now I get the privilege of spreading the the joy and the amazingness that is the art and science of communication around the world. Jumping on a podcast like this one, or giving keynote addresses, or running workshops for companies or individuals, whether that be virtual or in person.
Excellent. Yeah, so let's kind of unpack some of that. as you've brought that out. Um, excellence in communication. You brought up something that I kind of want to flag into. You and I have had a couple of conversations, and
Hmm.
you dropped something that it's the first time I've heard you say this, and so I kind of want to stop on this one for a minute. You said even more than your running, swimming, and biking,
Hmm.
your communication is such a key component to um, your competitive uh, skill sets. And yeah, I'd like you to talk a little bit about that, even in your sport, how that communication aspect is so critical. And then we'll dovetail into really our topic from the business standpoint. But I'd kind of like to hear a little more about that, because I think there might be a few golden nuggets there that we could take away.
Absolutely. No. So what I mean by that is it's actually quite literal. So, look, I'm totally blind, and when I train and compete in races, I do so with a guide. So with someone who swim, bikes, and runs right alongside me. So the two of us have to be able to, you know, clearly, confidently, effectively communicate things that are going on the race course, whether that be in the swim, we're communicating non-verbally through a series of my guide will tap me to let me know when to turn, or he'll give me a gentle poke in the ribs to let me know I gotta shift over a little bit, or something along those lines. On the on the tandem bike, we're constantly communicating. Um, just simple, clear, simple instructions like left turn, right turn, speed bump, that those kind of things. But then we're also communicate, and then out on the run, of course, same difference. We are talking about turning left, turning right, stepping up, stepping down. My guide is communicating my pace and all that kind of stuff. We're also letting each other know how we're doing, what nutrition do we need, all that kind of stuff. But if we back up even before I get to the race course, um, the communication, I need to find those guides, and I need to be able to support myself in the in this world of high performance sport, which means being able to reach out to companies and organizations to talk about partnerships and partnership deals and negotiate contracts and all that kind of stuff that allows me to actually make a living. So um, and then you also have the other areas of, look, there's I may compete in a sport that is swim, bike, run, but I'm not swimming, biking, and running alone. There's coaches, there's teammates, there's strength trainers, there's nutritionists, there's physiologists, there's all these different people around that help me get to that start line, that get me through the race, that get me to the finish line, and beyond. So knowing how to interact, how to um, figure out what their pain points are, figure out how I can best serve them so that they can help me along the path of success. It really does make a difference, because we say it as it unfortunately it's kind of become a cliche that we don't get to a start or a finish line alone. It really is true, and the more we can communicate with each other clearly and effectively, uh, the more successful we all become. And I think that is extremely important to remember in whatever industry we're in, whether that be sport, um, insurance, contracting, what have you.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, I love where you went with this, and I think it was a great segue that even as we're talking about prospecting.
Hmm.
It's not just a solo effort, although you may be the one out there engaging the marketplace. It's the support system around you. It is the framework around you that is going to help you in that success. And the other thing you said that I thought was really interesting is, finding the right, fit, the right team members, the right sponsors, all of
Hmm.
those things. And so I was kind of thinking about how we, translate this into this prospecting conversation. And I think one of the first things I want to kind of delve into is, are we prospecting with the right people to begin with? And so if you want to kind of let's start at that point of choosing number one, who am I having the conversations with? How do you make sure you're talking to the right audience? And then let's kind of progress from there. What do we start to do from that point? But let's start with, how do we find the right audience? How do we make sure we're talking to the right people?
Yeah, it's a really good question. And I often say that, look, prospecting, what it really boils down to, so prospecting comes from, we use that term from, it was basically when people were going out and looking for precious metals, like looking for, let's just say prospecting for gold. They had a very clear idea in their mind of what they were looking for, and they knew, and they had this process of, you know of digging or panning, or you know these processes that they followed, but they had a clear idea of what they were looking for. And sometimes they wound up finding other precious metals along the way. You go out looking for gold, you find silver, you find copper, you find zinc, and all these different precious metals. Uh, and I often say, and with exactly what to say, we often explain that, look, prospecting, all it is you're looking for missing people. So, Carl, you've got, you have kids, right?
Oh, yes.
So, imagine when, they're little. And let's just imagine that you're walking through, an old time shopping mall with them, and, they're in tow, they're causing trouble, a ruckus like kids do. And you see something catches your eye, you turn to get the opinion of the children, and they've disappeared. Now, I imagine that you would want to find those specific children. You don't want those children. You don't want children that kind of sort of look like them, act like them. You want those specific children. So, what do? You you write down, maybe grab a picture, you write down descriptors of them, you give them height, you give them eye color, weight, hair color, what they were wearing, the last place you saw them. You go out and you find anyone and everyone that could have been in that vicinity. Did you see them? Or you then maybe go and find film footage of where they were last seen, all that kind of stuff. So, and basically, what you do is you create this missing persons poster. So we have to know, first of all, what kind of customers do we want to work with? We have to know their physical. We have to know these very specific attributes. It's a lot easier to find, you know, a 45-year-old male, um, living in New York City, who works in the entertainment industry, than it is to find a good, hardworking, kind individual. So when we look for everybody, we find nobody. But when we get super laser focused on who we're looking for, we tend to see them everywhere. So it's really important to ask ourselves, who do we want to work with? What do they look like? What do they act like? Um, what what are their hobbies, what are their interests, all that kind of stuff, and we start building an image or a picture, or in the podcasting world we call it an avatar, your ideal customer.
Yeah, I think that, where you're headed. I love this. Is if you don't have that clear picture in mind, especially since we're talking about communication, you're not going to communicate clearly because you really don't know who you're talking to. And
Exactly.
so, yeah, great wisdom there for us. So now we've decided it's this 45-year-old, male in New York in the entertainment industry. I know who that audience is.
Yeah.
Now it's time to start talking. And
Hmm.
so, we're going to move into prospecting mode. And there's really a couple things, Kyle, that I think we want to talk about. Number one is, the number one thing that people are is going to stall them out is fear of rejection. And so let's talk first of all, how do we get the wheels in motion? How do we overcome that fear factor and take the first step? And then what is that first step that we need to be taking?
Well, I think the first step is knowing that the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. So think about what you want to say. And we actually, I like to use what we at Exactly What to Say call rejection free openings. So these are very simple things that, you know when said, it triggers something in your brain that says, "Oh, this could be for me," or "Huh, I'm interested." And one of my favorite rejection-free openings is this thing we call OFQ. It's opening, fact, and then a question. And so it's a polite opening, and then it's a mutually agreeable fact, and then it's a very easy to answer question. It's a lot harder to answer big, wide open ended, open-ended questions. Um, you know, if we're talking in the insurance realm, it's a lot easier. Well, it's a lot harder to answer the question. Have you recently thought about how you know renters insurance could protect your everything from that is in your house, from fires to floods to da 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 da. Uh, but it's a lot easier to answer a question like, I saw that you hi, my name is Kyle with Bubba's agency. I saw that you were recently on our website the other day, and you signed up for our newsletter, and you clicked to download, and just wondering, did the download work? It's a lot easier to get an answer to that question than going in right for the, have you thought about what this insurance package might do for you and your family. So it's slowing the process down, getting easy answers to easy questions before we go in for the hard kill. And it starts by just asking questions to generate conversations, and those conversations, those evolve into relationships, and those relationships, once you have built that foundation of trust, you've been curious, and you build up toward empathy, so you can care about what your prospects care about. Then you have the opportunities. So it all starts with asking asking questions. And so, like I said, one of my favorite uh, ways to open a conversation is just an opening fact, a polite opening. Hi, my name is, blank from blank agency, or you know, choose your opening. A mutually agreeable fact. I saw that you were, I saw that you just liked me, followed me on Instagram, or you sent a request to me on LinkedIn, or you were on my website and you signed up for my newsletter. Uh, you know, and then an easy to answer question. Something like, did the download work? What, why did you decide to give me a follow, what made you decide to give me a follow on LinkedIn or Instagram or something along those lines.
Excellent. Yeah, one of the things that you brought up that I think is so important is I think one of the mistakes so many agents make is they're too quick to go for the kill, or I always like to say you're too quick to propose for the marriage, and you haven't even started dating yet. And
Yes.
I love the way you preface that. Now, one of the things I'm going to kind of draw out of you, because we've had some conversations before,
Yep.
is taking the time in curiosity, and I'd like you to
Hmm.
kind of delve into that. You've got a statement, and I'm not going to try and paraphrase it. I'm going to let you put it out there. That good conversation, good prospecting. There's this curiosity factor, and so I'm going to let you explain that a little bit.
Absolutely. No. So, it goes back to, look, what we're in the business of prospecting is all about generating conversations. And, you know, the fuel for great conversations is curiosity. So we have to remain curious for long enough so that we can reach a position of empathy. And empathy is caring what our customers care about. So we have to be curious about them. We can't assume, because we all know what happens when you assume. You make an ass out of you and me. So we have to approach conversations from a position of curiosity. Asking questions. Like, what is your experience, or what do you understand about? Um, or what have again, going back to some of the easy to answer questions, like, where'd you hear about us? What do you do for a living? Those kinds of things. Just getting a conversation going, so that you can build rapport, and so that you can find out about your customer, about your prospect, and see if indeed they are the right, if they fit your missing persons poster.
That's good. Finding out if they're the right fit. Not everybody is the right fit, and I think that's another piece we want to bring up. It's don't be so desperate that you just feel like you have to work with everybody.
Yeah.
I think it's
Yeah.
so important.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember that we have to slow the process down to speed the outcome up. And look, in the world of, insurance, or whatever insurance you're in the business of selling, whether that be life insurance, renters insurance, homeowners insurance, any car insurance. We're in the business of helping people. And at the end of the day, that's our goal. So we have to make sure that we understand our prospect, you know, our prospect on a level that allows us to actually deliver great value to them. Because at the end of the day, people are going to do things for their reasons, not ours. They're not gonna buy, you know, a package from us because it helps me. They're gonna buy it because it helps them. And so it's up to us to be curious for long enough to reach a position of empathy, so that we can give them the package that is best for them.
Good advice. You delved into something that I kind of want us to hit into a little more. One of the things that's happened with technology is I think a lot of agents have got away from really honing their prospecting skills. And I want us to kind of delve into for just a couple of moments. How do you leverage technology and marry that to good prospecting as really kind of a powerful 1-2 combination? How can you use that technology to your advantage, but then use strong prospecting skills, good communication, to really springboard from that and drive your business forward?
Oh yeah. I mean, look, look, we're doing this. We're talking via Zoom. Technology's awesome. It allows us to be connected to. It makes the world a lot smaller. Look, me being totally blind, technology is amazing. I can take a picture of something and then have my phone describe what I just took a picture of. I love technology, um, but what I use technology for is I use things like my social media platforms, my Instagram, my LinkedIn, my Facebook, my email newsletter, my podcast. I use technology to increase my visibility, to give me and increased my credibility, and let people know that I'm available for work. And it's a way to showcase myself, and then my authenticity is on full display when we actually get on the phone or we actually start exchanging communication. And look, I love using I I love using tools like ChatGPT or Copilot or Gemini. Those tools, um, for generating ideas or practicing. I use those tools a lot actually in practicing conversations. Like if I'm nervous about engaging with a prospect, I can tell this amazing piece of technology to pretend to be a prospect, and I can pretend to have a conversation with that. So technology is great, but at the end of the day, technology is great for organizing. It's great for idea generating, um, but people do business with people. They're not going to buy from a chatbot. They're not gonna buy from an AI robot. At least most of the time, we do business with people, and at the end of the day, you're the one that has to close the sale. You're the one that has to make the decision. This is the right prospect for me. This person fits my missing persons poster. And I think you know having that human connection and human touch is why we're all here.
Excellent. Yeah, I think it's important to use the technology to cast the wide net, put yourself in touch with more people,
Hmm.
and then use these prospecting skills to showcase who you are and develop those long-term relationships with the right people.
Yeah.
So good stuff, Kyle. Any final thoughts if you were to give your top prospecting tips? What would you leave us with today?
Oh my goodness gracious. So many, so many. I think at the end of the day, keep it stupid simple, do the simple things really, really well, and do those simple things just a little bit better. Uh, and what I mean by that is remember, we have four principles in, exactly what to say. And there are cornerstones of conversational excellence. And this could be, you know, conversation with future prospects, conversations with your boss, conversations with colleagues, your spouse, your friends, conversations with yourself. Um, and those cornerstones are: the worst time to think about the thing you're going to say is in the moment you're saying it. So, in other words, prepare for your conversations. Curiosity is that fuel for great conversation. The person that is asking the questions, that's the person in control of the conversation. And as we discussed earlier, people do things for their reasons, not yours. So be curious for long enough so that you can reach a point of empathy, so that we're not across the table fighting each other. We now get to the same side of the table working together to overcome a challenge.
Perfect. And Kyle, if somebody wants to reach out to you, they want to connect with you, where can they learn more about you and where can they make those connections?
You can find me on pretty much most of the social media platforms. You can also just shoot me an email, kyle@kylecoon.com. That's my email address. I'm on Instagram at ironkyle. That's EYERONKYLE. Or you can connect with me on LinkedIn, linkedin.com/in/Kyle Coon. And let's keep the conversation going.
Fantastic. Kyle, thanks for being with us today. And to our listeners, thanks for joining us on the Digital Insurance Agent. And we look forward to having you on the next episode.